Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lion's Den Show. And here's your host, Cody Robert Judy. Welcome to the Lion's Den Show. I'm your host and your toast, Cody Robert Judy. It's good to be with you. Today is January 31st, 2011. And many of you fathers have emailed me and wished me to do a continuation show on my divorce case and custody battle because of the discrimination of gender that is going on in our courts regarding our children. Many of you saw the stack of papers that I have filed before in the last show regarding this issue. Here's the stack now. As you can see, that's a pretty good stack of papers. I'm just guessing it could be 500 pages, probably a little more. I do this with some hesitation, understanding there are probably few people who care. There are a few people who care about my personal life, but probably most people don't. But I am compelled for fathers' rights across America that are being trampled on and laid asunder by the courts to the detriment of fathers' rights, and the detriment is upon society as a whole. I don't know if it will do any good, but I have watched the Dr.Phil show, and that showcased fathers' rights and mothers who are taking advantage of their gender have pillaged the minor children's rights away from their fathers. Commissioner Gardner, who's the commissioner in my case, told me I didn't have a right to a jury trial here in Utah and denied my demand for a jury trial in which my property was seized from me and I was kicked out on the street by the courts, having to find a place to rent in order to maintain visitation with my son, who I've made a video of here that I'd like you to take a look at and see. I managed to find a place, and I had to remodel the whole thing, paint it, and put down a new floor in such an expeditious way in order to gain that foothold of first right of refusal, which I did get. With those who don't know what first right of refusal is, it's the ability for the court-deemed temporary non-custodial parent to watch a child rather than a babysitter when the other custodial parent was working. So you're actually fighting for your parents' rights against the babysitters. And the court has to agree that you as a parent have the right over a babysitter while your spouse is at work. Well, I got it, and it was no small feat. I'm convinced more and more as I proceed through this case that the courts are so used to dads just laying down and giving the women everything, including property and the children and child support and alimony, that it represents more and more the gender discrimination that has been going on, which has served the courts and their commissioners in basically making their job easier and the workload lighter, as fathers have actually tried to save on legal bills and legal fees. I'm representing myself here, and you can see the stack of papers that I've been moved to file. You see, if dads just give up, it just makes things so much easier and the workload lighter for these commissioners. They try to make the workload lighter for the district court judges. Now, as usual, I show you evidence to prove my point here. I'm not just spouting my mouth off without anything to show. My court commissioner just fined me $250 for filing one motion in a period of 3 months for physical custody of my son because he, to quote him, said it was a frivolous motion. Now, before you jump to conclusions there, remember there's nothing standing in the way before I filed this motion for my son to receive permanent custody with his mother. Never mind he spends 85% of his time with me during his waking hours while she's at work. Now, because of this motion, 3 things were decided in the hearing we had January 25th, 2011. One, that there might needs be a need for a custody evaluation, which cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. The commissioner said he was in the business of determining who was serious by who came up with the money first and who dragged their feet, in effect holding the child, my son, for sale to the parent who was the richest. And please consider the fact that I'm the one that's ordered to pay child support, and I'm the one watching my son all day while she's at work. The commissioner did say we could beg and borrow, but we couldn't steal. So I'm begging anyone who sees this for help for me and my son. If you can afford any extra for this little guy and his dad to get a custody evaluation, I sure would appreciate it. I know with all these papers that the court isn't used to a father putting up such a fight for his son. But if I hadn't filed all these papers, I wouldn't now be watching and seeing my son every day. And that is a great joy to my life. And his, I know too. You see, I was a child who was deprived of my father's time. God bless my mom, for she did the best she knew how at the time. But I really was a little boy blue in that song you see in the video. In the video you'll watch, Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Moon. Little Boy Blue and the Man on the Moon. But it wasn't because my dad didn't want to spend time with me. It was because my mom took me away, and he didn't have the money to pay during the divorce case. The same thing happened with my first 3 kids that you'll also see in a video, who I have never stopped loving. And I paid over $21,000 in child support and never got to visit. It caused my dad so much pain, It plagued him his whole life, and he drank to hide the pain. He recovered from his tobacco and alcoholism 7 years before he passed away, I'm thankful to say. I was fortunate to get out of prison about a year before he passed away. I wish he could have been alive to see this grandson of his and enjoy him. I feel I've been given a second chance with my son 20 years later, and I don't want to let it slip away because I can't afford a divorce attorney or a custody evaluation. I'm not a practicing attorney, but I have managed to file these papers with study at the library, and I started out with nothing. In fact, she had deprived me of my son for 6 weeks before I was able to arrest her behavior towards our son and get orders for visits. Then I got first right. I see him every day, and I tend 8 to 10 hours a day. Because getting kicked out of my house and off my property, I secured an apartment and I redid it so it was like new carpet, new paint, providing a good place to exercise that first right, which the court granted. In the most recent hearing, I was fined $250 for filing this motion for physical custody because the commissioner said it was frivolous. Just to show you an example of frivolous, which I believe is frivolous, her attorney, Roy D. Cole, whom you've learned to be a big piece of lard with the forked tongue, he filed a motion to restrict my attending church services because it made her uncomfortable. I had to answer it and protested it. She's going to feel uncomfortable when I'm at school functions or sporting events throughout my son's whole life. Because if it is and the court upholds her motion, I'm going to be restricted from being a father who shows up at his games or at his graduations, all because she's uncomfortable. The court denied her motion, but didn't fine her attorney for filing that motion, nor has he been fined for filing any of the frivolous motions that he's filed. He filed a motion to get me so I couldn't post my son's picture on Facebook, even though she has done that. And on my Facebook account, pictures of my son. Yet she did it. I had to respond to those standing up for our First Amendment rights and freedom of speech and government might not tap down or access our free choice to the internet. I'm fighting for these rights on a daily basis in real-time circumstances. Yet the court, as I said, has fined me $250 as a father for filing a motion for physical custody of my son, calling it frivolous. Calling it a frivolous motion despite or in spite of three major things that happened in the hearing as a result of my motion. 1. The court realized the case was not ready to certify for trial. 2. A second attempt at mediation has and now is ordered. And 3. A custody evaluation was discussed in court and the cause for it if we could not agree at the second mediation. Those are pretty major things that came about simply on my motion. Yet I was seized upon with a fine of $250. Also, a slight miracle happened the court ignored. 2 days after I filed that motion, the petitioner's work schedule suddenly changed from her getting off as usual at 6 p.m., which has happened for the last 4 years of our marriage, which has not been the case, to 4 p.m. It was like a miracle. Well, or because I filed this motion. And it made so much damn sense, it must have scared her. Yet the court doesn't want to admit it's getting its chain yanked. And they want to put that blame on me. Now here is the rebuttal I made to the court, submitted to the court, from her attorney for the commissioner to sign. So you can see, I'm not yanking your chain. There's the date and the time it was filed. Now her attorney has indeed made references to my videos in court, my channel here on YouTube, which is all the videos of McCain and Obama's eligibility. I understand there is much political favoritism towards Obama and McCain, as well as media attention as presidential candidates, and dissent towards me because I have stood up for the Constitution. I'm hoping for the best that these legal actions I have taken in presenting my case against John McCain and Obama to the Republican-controlled House and Democrat-controlled Senate, and that it will not be held against me or my son. In this case, my son and I need your help. And you can see how these political actions are affecting personal lives. And this has been the sacrifice both John McCain and Barack Obama have been willing to turn their backs on to further their political agenda of destroying America's Constitution. If you're a billionaire out there or a millionaire and you feel like you'd like to donate to a good cause for fathers, I would really appreciate your help. Here's where you can send a check to helping me with the custody evaluation. Put on the envelope for Father's Rights. Check payable to Cody Judy, P.O. Box 3031, Suite 2, Ogden Avenue, Ogden, Utah 84403. Thank you and God bless you.